Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, my next guest believed that happy people create higher profits, and that's why they wrote a new book. It's called The Best Job Ever. Their story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I affectionately call this a Thank God It's Monday company. There's laughter in the hallways. People love to come to work here. And I love to have guests who have the same heart. I can't think of 2 better people to invite on the show than Dr. Jayne Gardner and Joel Patterson. They're the co-authors of The Best Job Ever. Thanks for coming on the show.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Yes. Absolutely. And I've known both of you for at least a decade now, and I can vouch that you guys are winners. You have the heart for company culture. And I want to start by asking you about the book. Like, what is the book about?
You know, Jeff, it's like you're the epitome of the culture we've tried to create, because just walking in your company, everybody, you just gain energy being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's like, that's what we want all companies, all employees to do, is have a place to go where they want to get up on Monday morning and go to work. So Joel and it actually began with the talking about the TV show
Billions.
Yeah. You remember that?
For sure. So, just a little background on how Jayne and I met. I was in a small business group, learning from each other all the time, and I'm just open kimono here. I have no problem sharing kind of personal, my adventures through life. And I used to go to counseling all the time because I wanted to learn about myself. Not because I was always trying to fix a problem, but because I just wanted to become a better version of whatever I can be. I was in a small group and learned of Dr. Jayne with people who had coached with her before. We started coaching, and I mean, truthfully, it sounds like I'm selling, but it changed my life. I mean, it really gave me a different perspective on how I looked at problems that I was facing in my life or things that I was good at, and giving them a name and a definition, which just changes how you think about things, right? And so through that coaching experience, Jayne was talking about the TV show Billions, and on there is a coach who just works with this hedge fund, and it just really opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, if we had somebody on board in our company, which is a services company, if we had somebody on board that was focused on doing nothing but in making them better versions of themselves and improving how they looked at life, wow, what a difference that would make. And that's kind of how we got to where we are.
Well, and Jayne made the point before the show that in the TV show Billions, the coach gets a free Maserati.
Oh, really? She did, actually. Yeah, okay. Seems like that created a tax problem, if I remember right. So maybe I'll avoid it.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna put the book cover up on the screen because it's a beautiful book cover, and I love the name. Okay, so tell us how the book came about.
Well, that title, Best Job Ever. So we started on this project, and we were going by the seat of our pants, if you remember. We were like, we'll try this. Okay. So he said, well, why don't you start by interviewing my people and just kind of getting a sense of things? And I kept hearing this phrase as I was interviewing people. This is the best job I've ever had. This is the best job ever. And I saw that his culture was just beautiful, that people loved, and they would say, I'll never leave, he had the loyalty, the performance was good. What we found out after we kind of unpacked all of his culture was that he did want some things changed. You wanted more accountability, more, I think it was such a happy place to come that you could have the tendency to take advantage of it if you weren't really,
For sure.
tight on your rules here. So we began to define what a culture was, and we decided it was just what are the rules and what happens when you break them. And what we did, I think, different in one of the offsets we did is we took the leadership team and we said to them, let's define what a culture is for this company. And one thing they kept saying was, best job, we want to be happy here, we want to have fun. And that was the beginning of what we decided to almost duplicate, to package up to scale, was a job where people were happy. And then, we saw the results of it as his performance, the people's performance went up, and he began to see profits that were higher too.
Joel, what's one of the takeaways you want people to get from the book?
Well, I think it's just it attempts to be a real world example of how you can have an impact. As an entrepreneur and leading people, it's difficult. Everybody's a little bit different. You want to make sure that you are reaching out to them in the way that is best for them to receive it. You want to make sure you're giving them information that actually makes sense. And this is something that we can bring to everybody. It's tailored specifically to them. It's a 12-week process that they go through where they really try to understand who they are as a person. This is not just about business. It is about business, though, too. I want to make sure that's a very important point, because we're all running a business here that we need to make money. It's about improving your bottom line, but we all know that investing in your people is what does that the most effectively, right? And so this allows you to really invest in them as a person, not only to see what's going on with them at home or anywhere else, but how they address problems at the office, how they maybe respond or react to things that they weren't aware of before. And as somebody who's gone through it, I can tell you it's made an incredible difference in just how I manage my day-to-day activities.
Well, and I think the timing on your book is perfect because I'm a baby boomer. I'm the tail end of the baby boomers, and my generation was, hey, life is not a bowl of cherries, kids. Suck it up, pay your dues. And today's, Gen Z, man, they're out.
It's not that,
right?
that is not what we're. And you don't want to disparage an entire generation. I hate it when you see all these stereotypes about it, because there are plenty of really good people in every single generation. But there's certainly a difference when you interview enough people in that category. You see that they respond to things differently. They ask different questions, and they've done different amounts of research on the company that they're interviewing with.
One thing is they tell me up front, I want to make money, yes, but I want to have meaning too. They want to make a difference, and I think it's beautiful for a culture to be, seated with people that really want to be there. And one of the stories that really impressed me the most when I was interviewing people about what they found appealing about having a coaching culture, having a coach there for them to call on, was that they kept telling me, Joel, and I think I've told you this before, but they kept telling me that what they appreciated more than anything was that you providing this coach atmosphere for them, that you didn't have to do that. And it wasn't directly related to how to improve performance, how to be anything better than a better person. And they felt like you cared. And so that's what Joel brings to the culture, is people feel he is real and that he really cares about their family, about whether they're happy every day. And that is the essence of what we wanted to capture in this book.
And so many people think, I'm going to put a slogan on the break room wall, and I'm going to put in a ping pong table, and I have changed the culture. So address some small things that people can do to start to change. I mean, if it's a toxic company, what are some small things people can do to start changing that narrative?
You got to have intentional conversations, but even that, I think, it throws people off at times. I'll tell you, if I was going to reduce one thing that makes such a difference in an organization, it's gossip. It's people talking about each other, because that creates so many different situations and relationships that aren't productive. And in a business like ours, we're a consulting organization, so our people work together on these large, complex projects. It's very important that they see eye to eye, right? You don't want a lot of different things that are going on to have nothing to do with what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes, and when we did that offsite, that was one of the rules of culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Gossip is not permitted, because we want you to talk with people, not about them.
Oh, outstanding. We should also brag about Dr. Jayne. She has a very popular podcast. She does it at this network. We're going to show some video of your show. Dr. Jayne, tell us about the show and the kinds of people you like to feature.
I love growth-minded entrepreneurs and leaders because they're open to innovation. And I know one of the things that even those growth-minded entrepreneurs say when I first put the culture in, I think you did, Joel, is, well, this is kind of weird. You know, it was like, You're going to talk about emotions at a company, a business. Wow, families, how we grew up, it seems odd. But then they open up to it. They're open to new things, and they want to be the change. In all of the way the world is changing so fast right now, they want to get in the middle of it and change things rather than wait for the change to come and have to adapt to it. I saw that when COVID happened with Joel. He missed maybe 24 hours of a beat there, and then he was back on, as we all did. Some of us took months, before we came back. But he already had a game plan. And so that's the kind of entrepreneur that I love working with, because the requirement is they take this process first, and then the company believes in it, and they want to take it because of the exemplar attitude of their leader.
And absolutely, people can buy the book and at least get a roadmap, but how does a company know when they need to bring in somebody like you, Dr. Jayne?
Anytime they're growing or want to grow. And see, that really defines a growth mindset in an entrepreneur. It really defines all entrepreneurs is they're adventuresome. They want to do something. They want to create something. But sometimes they get stuck in their old habits, and they don't know quite how to grow their company. And that's when the time comes to get some different ways of thinking, and introducing a coaching culture involves all of the people, and it just turns the company around.
All right, I want to brag on Joel now, and we're going to put up your YouTube channel. And as we scroll down your YouTube channel, this actually goes on for days. It does.
That's good.
You've become kind of a national thought leader on workplace culture. You're always on the best places to work list. But becoming a media personality was not something that came natural to you. But I think you've really kind of grown to enjoy it, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, actually. I think what Jayne mentioned, the growth mindset, is something I try to emulate as well, right? And
Absolutely.
I will tell you that stepping into doing the kind of things, those kind of activities was not easy, and she can attest to it as well. But I want to expand, I want to grow, and it's exactly what we're bringing to the organization with our coaching philosophy. I think one thing to mention about the overall process that you go through, really, it comes down to a very basic concept. You are trying to identify who your conditioned self is, meaning who did you become because of your parents, your teachers, your friends, all those things that influenced you, recognizing it, not in a bad way necessarily, but just recognizing that's who you are, and then trying to really understand who your really future wants to be, who you really should be based on your personality, your beliefs, and identifying something as simple as that changes so much for you. And I think that's the piece in business, how this applies, in that you become somebody who maybe was a little bit maybe not as forward about, communicating your feelings about a certain subject. Maybe you were held back because of whatever reasons. And now all of a sudden you're willing to step forward a little bit. They're little tiny increments, but man, those little increments, over time, make massive changes and can really impact your attrition rate. Right. We monitor employee net promoter score very diligently. Ours, we get great feedback, but we also get good criticism, which is another characteristic, I think, of organizations that have a good culture, is that they can give you feedback. You don't have to agree with it, but sometimes it might recognize the blind spot that you've got there. And if you don't have people that are willing to step forward and say things, you're missing out.
Dr. Jayne, what's one of your favorite success stories?
Oh, that'd be okay. Well, I was just thinking about to say, and it was around that same topic, is a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a Best Job Ever podcast, and the entrepreneur, in the middle of it, he just burst out and he said, well, Dr. Jayne, it's controlling Charlie. He said, he just took over. And he said, after I recognized that blind spot, He said, everything changed for me because now people can come and talk to me and say, dude, you're really going too far there. And I listen, they listen, and then it trickles down into our company where we can conflict with each other. We can go toe-to-toe as equals, and it levels out the company.
So when you come into an organization for the first time, what does that engagement look like? You're meeting with the CEO and the C-suite, or you're just meeting with the CEO?
Meet with the CEO because that is so important that he or she have the desire for growth enough to go through a 12-week course that defines them, that helps them figure out their best self. So if they know that's something they shut down to, then it wouldn't work for me to come in at a management level, even a leadership level, and ask the leaders to do that. But, Jeff, it's changing. I think you said it before when we were talking before the show, that people are open now to coaching cultures. And I think for so long I was trying to sell it, and now people are asking me about it and wanting that. And that's just such a dynamic business shift that I love.
Joel, what was it about Dr. Jayne's manner that made your engagement with her so successful?
I mean, we've been working together for so long, so but from day one, it was always a very matter-of-fact kind of relationship. I'm not, I like to think of myself as genuine and kind of a blue-collar approach to things. I want to really talk about ways to be practical about how I invest my time. And if I'm going to invest time with somebody really just trying to learn about myself, I want to make sure that I've got a good relationship with them, because if I don't, it's just not going to work. And so having that level of trust, having that level of just awareness of what that person is going to bring, but let me be clear. From the time we started coaching individually to the time where she was coaching a ton of people in the organization, it wasn't overnight, right? There's work that has to be done. I mean, I went through the process and was able to communicate it to my business partner, who also went through it, who believed in it just as much as I did. I mean, honestly, it was that second person that broke the dam, right? If one person is coming in and saying, "Hey, this really worked for me," I think
especially the leader.
Yeah, I think our people could get after it. You're still, no matter who you are in the organization, because sometimes as a leader they look at you a little funny anyway, right? They're not sure what's going on in your brain. But when you've got somebody else that's saying, I got this too, all of a sudden it becomes something different, and that's really what allowed us to just kind of take off with it. We've learned things along the way. We also learned that we didn't want to force a group of, like, at one point we thought, hey, if the sales team could go through this process together, that would be really impactful for them. Not so much, because they weren't all ready for that, right? You've got to really be interested in that growth mindset, and in a place in your life where you can receive that stuff. So, but I can tell you from where we are now and where we were a decade ago, it's night and day. I mean, as a business, we've grown. As all the things that we track as far as attrition and ENPS and the way that we monitor employee health, they've all improved. And that whether you can tie that specific coaching dollar to that change in NPS, I don't know, but I think you can. I mean, I know it's there. It's just sometimes it's tough for people to get their heads around what that investment really means.
Yeah, I think the way we've talked about it is made that concise little bullet is that soft skills equal hard results. And it does take time.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight.
But it's real. It's not just because it's soft doesn't mean it's not real. No, it just takes somebody that's willing to believe in it and invest in it and understand it to see that there's value there.
We're going to tell people how to order the book in a minute, but we've got about 2 minutes left in the show. I want you both to have kind of a final thought. Let's begin with you, Joel.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, I was...
What do you want to leave people with?
Wow. I would... When it comes to coaching, the thing that people first always ask about is the financial impact, which we just talked about. I think what you've really got to do is just, we grew up with this concept of life coach. At least I did,
yes.
And people roll their eyes. They roll their eyes and they don't know what that means. And you can call it whatever you want. But if I'm going to take coaching to learn to bowl or to play baseball better, why does it not make sense to get some different perspectives, to learn from other people? There's been a lot of people on the earth before us, to learn about that and maybe fast forward some of it. I mean, to me, when I learned that one of my number one traits was learner, just the name made such a difference. It's like, oh yeah, I like to read. I like to do some of these things. And it's feeding that desire for me. And just having a label made such a difference. So just keep an open mind.
That's beautiful. Jayne, final word.
Psychology, it's always been my love. And to see it being used in business so comfortably as Joel uses it has been just such a broadening for me, such a thrill, that I can see now how psychology and business are supposed to go together. They're the same thing. So, yes.
Wow. Beautiful way to end the segment. We're also going to leave you with the website so you can order the book. It's drjaynegardner.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jess.
Enjoy
You bet.
it. Thanks.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.